you're allowing evil to come in and destroy you. And Paul says the reason you're struggling to respond this way is you're missing it. You see, you're getting in, you think this is just a conflict between me and this person. And Paul says, you're missing that something powerful has happened every time conflict comes upon you. That if you give into it, you are not just giving in to hurting that person, you are giving in to opening your life up so that you can be destroyed. In the heat of conflict, kind of Paul takes it back and says, listen, in the heat of conflict, you're going to think the issue is just between you and the other person. But in the heat of conflict, there's always more at stake than what you think. You see, when Paul uses this word evil, he's not talking about an action. He's talking about evil as a force. Evil as a power. Evil is a cancer. And that cancer wants to come in, that power, that force wants to come in and begin to destroy you. And that desire for revenge, that anger to get your way, that unforgiveness, that grudge, that bitterness, that unforgiveness that you hold on to and you go, I can't do this because it would bless them and I would be hurt. Paul said, no. Now what you're holding on to is a power. It's a force that wants to consume you. In the midst of conflict, we tend to think it's all about what's happening now, don't we? You know, we go, whoa, this is between me and her, or me and him, or me and them. It's about us, and what they did was so wrong, and what they did was horrible. We just focus on what's happening in front of our eyes. And Paul says, you're going to miss it. Because if all you do is concentrate on what's happening right before your eyes, you're going to go, I can't help it. They deserve this. What's the big deal if I gossip? What's the big deal if I get them back? What's the big deal if I shoot off a bad email about them? What's the big deal if I let them have it? What's the big deal if I raise my voice and yell at them? What's the big deal? And Paul says, whoa, I'm telling you, it seems good now. But you just don't realize there's far more at risk and you just don't see it. Because what's at stake is that when you return evil for evil, when you hold on to a grudge, when you fight back, when you yell, and when you get angry, you actually open it up to your life for evil to overtake you, for evil to consume you, for evil to destroy everything that is good in your life, for evil to keep you from the good things God wants to do for you and in you. But Paul says you're missing it. There's always more at stake. There's always more at stake than what is going on. He gives this example. He gives this warning in Ephesians. He's writing to the Christ followers in Ephesus. And he's kind of giving them the same background. And he kind of pulls back and says, hey, don't sin by letting anger do what? Control you. Anger wants to control you. He says, don't let anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you're still angry. Why? And here's what he says. He kind of pulls back and says, you're missing it. Because you think you're just mad because she didn't give you what you want. You're just mad because you think, he didn't do what you wanted to do. You're mad because they mistreated you. You think all that's going on is just between you and this person. But Paul says, whoa, you're missing it. For anger gives a foothold to the devil, to evil. You see, your anger, your revenge is not simply an action. You think it is, but it's not simply an action. It is a ferocious power. It is a force. It is a controlling cancer, a disease that desires to destroy you and everything that you have. It wants to have you. And your anger, if you give into it, provides a base of operations for the evil and to begin to work in the midst of your life. And the longer you hold on to that hate, the longer you hold on to that anger, the longer you hold on to that revenge, it becomes a powerful presence in your life. See, Paul says there's far more at stake than what you think going on here. Every time you give into evil, what you begin to realize is your future is at stake. You see, if you're not a believer in Jesus Christ, and kind of someone drug you here, hey, I'm going to give you a free lunch, just come, and you say, okay, free lunch, and you're here, and you're going, I don't believe in the devil, I don't believe in sin, I don't believe in any of that. I just want you to think, you've seen this principle work in your own life. You don't have to believe in that, but you've seen it work in your own life. You have seen how anger has destroyed the future of people. Because there was people you loved, or maybe you were a part of it, that you loved somebody, or you were deeply committed, or you were, respected somebody who was deeply committed. And one time, these two people stood before an altar, and they vowed their love to each other, and they said, I love you to death do us we part. And they said, I love you till the very last breath that I have. And there was all this emotion, and there was all this love, and there was all this joy. And those two people at the moment, they didn't think anybody could tear them apart, could they? And you were like, yeah, this is beautiful. But what began to happen? Maybe one day she did something wrong, and so he just let out a little word or a little comment because he wanted to hurt her, because he felt hurt. So what did she do? She let back a little jab because she felt hurt now, and she just wanted to get him back for what she did. And they began to do, and what started out was just these little jabs, over a period of time began to consume them, so that now, at the drop of a hat, they were just blowing up. It was just always, ah! And now it went for, hey, I'll love you until you're dead, to I would love for you to be dead. And it's kind of this switch. And you go, what happened? Anger. Revenge. It consumed you and it killed something that in the very beginning no one thought could be killed. So you don't have to believe in the devil or sin. You can see this in people's lives. You can see people who've taken on unforgiveness and kind of held it in, and they think they're hurting the people that have wronged them. But when you get an outside view, you see it, don't you? They're not hurting the person that hurt them. Who are they hurting? Themselves. And they become a shell of a person that they used to be. They become shriveled, cold, bitter, dark. And you can see it, can't you? You just missed it in yourself. You missed it in your own life. Because there's far more at risk than what you think. What begins to happen is that anger becomes a sense in your life. It becomes very easy once you begin to live in anger, once you begin to live in rage. It becomes very easy to keep living that way and doing it, doesn't it? It becomes very easy. It becomes very easy to live in it. And then what becomes very difficult is to stop doing it. See, if you start saying, I'm going to live with anger, I'm going to live with fear, and you put it into your heart, what begins to happen is it's harder and harder to get rid of. And what begins to happen is over life it continues to corrupt you, destroy you. And what begins to happen is that evil comes in, and it's just not an action that you commit. No, what begins to happen is the moment you commit it, it's not something that you commit and move on. It's something when you commit begins to burrow deep within you. And it begins to control you. And it begins to have an effect upon you in an emotional, psychological, relational, spiritual part of your life. It kills you. You see, Paul says, listen, you think anger is just some external thing. You think it's just no big deal. But it's bigger than that. It's something internally happening in the midst of your life that when you allow this hate, this revenge, and this bitterness to continue. There's an amazing story that's happening. It's found in Genesis. In Genesis, there's a story of two brothers. One, his name is Cain, and one name is Abel. And Abel has done something, and Cain sees it, and he interprets it wrong because he gets really jealous and really ticked off and really mean, and he kind of pushes himself back, and he's having this little pity party, I'm a victim, life is horrible, what can I do? And he starts to harbor revenge against his brother. He starts thinking in his mind, what can I do to hurt him? What can I do to destroy him? What can I do to make him pay? What can I do to show him that I am acceptable too? What can I do? What can I do? I know you've never struggled with that. But Cain is like really struggling with this. He can't get over what just happened to him. So he keeps thinking, he's just hurting. And all of a sudden, it's incredible. God shows up. And God just has a one-on-one conversation with him. So if you ever want to know what God would do, when someone hurts you and you're kind of pulled back and you're thinking, what can I do to get it back? If God could show up in your life, here's the conversation he would have with you. Here's what he would say to you. All right, so he appears to Cain. He comes on this thing and says, Cain, 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 Cain. If you do well, you'll be accepted. Cain, you will be accepted if you just do what is right. But then he pulls back and says, but Cain, let me warn you. I know what you're thinking. If you do not do well, sin is crouching at your door. That word crouching is a violent word. Crouching is kind of what tigers do. It's what leopards do. They kind of hide in the back. It's kind of like anytime you watch those horror movies, Jurassic Park, and the dinosaurs are never out in the light, right? The dinosaurs are always like this, just waiting. somebody just walks out and starts like, ah! You're like, ah! It consumes you. You don't see it, do you? You can't see it because if you saw it, you would do what? You would run. You hear what he's saying about anger? You think you can get away with it. You don't see it. It's a predator. It wants to consume you. It hides. It lulls you and come on. She deserves it. She hurt you. Tell her back. Come on, your kids, they need to hear how horrible they are. Just yell a little bit more at them. Come on. Your boss, he needs to take this job and do something with it. He just needs to have it. You can't allow him to do that. Come on, let him have it. Let him have it. Let him have it. Let him have it. Come on, write that email. Come on. Come on. It's crouching. You don't see what it wants to do to you. So God's sin is crouching at the door. It's desire. That word desire literally means, guess what? Overcome. That desire wants to rule over you. That desire wants to conquer you. But you must conquer desire, rule over, overcome it. God says, Cain, you got a choice. There's far more at stake than what you think. You think if you follow through this, it's going to hurt Abel. And you think that's all it is. But God says, I want to tell you something. Cain, this is going to hurt you. It's going to destroy you. If you go down this path, it's going to destroy all the good things I want to do in your life. It's going to consume you, Cain. You think there's not really a big deal. You think it's just between you and your brother. There's far more at stake. Evil is wanting to control you. Evil is wanting to destroy you. And if you allow it in, if you act on it, it will destroy you.